fortunate today to have with us the busiest woman in WordPress. And Michelle Frechette is going to give us a talk about underrepresented in tech. So please take it away.
Thank you. I'm going to be awkwardly, oh, thank you. I'm going to awkwardly hold my laptop because one of the things that we don't accommodate in tech very well is when speakers have a disability and aren't tall enough to be behind the podium, we don't have a way to accommodate that. So I'm one of those people who has to balance and try to figure those things out. And that's not a criticism necessarily, but we're always in different places. Schools don't think about that. Like, have you ever seen people who like get behind it and they have to bend the mic really down far because they're 5 feet tall? Well, imagine being 5 feet tall and then having to sit behind a podium. That's me. So I hope I don't drop it. That's what I'll say. So Underrepresented in Tech is a project that was begun in 2019, I believe, 2020, in WordPress. And I'm going to talk you through, it's a little bit of the history of it, why it exists, and what we hope for the future of Underrepresented in Tech is. So let's go ahead and start. First, I want to acknowledge the land that we sit on, because the land that this university sits on today was settled by people who didn't own the land. And that's one of the things we can do, just to acknowledge the people whose land we take. And this is from Montclair University. They have a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that Montclair State University occupies land in Lenape-Hoking, the traditional and expropriated territory. Look, I stumbled over expropriated, but not the name of the people, of the Lenape. As a state institution, we have recognized and support the sovereignty of New Jersey's 3 state-recognized tribes, the Ramapo Lenape, Nanticoke Lenni Lenape, and Powhatan Lenape nations. So I just want us to take a moment and think about wherever we are on stolen land, and those are underrepresented people. But how did Underrepresented in Tech begin? It all started with Allie Nimmons and me. And Allie Nimmons and I, at the time, were often approached because Allie was a black woman, and I know black people, so there you go, right? Allie said to me, I keep getting asked if I could speak at conferences. However, most of the time when we are at a WordCamp especially, we pay our own way to be there. We pay our own travel, we pay our hotel, we pay for our food on the way and back, and every single bit of what we do to be there and share our knowledge is not subsidized by anybody. That's how WordCamp works. We don't get paid to be here. Now, some of us, in the past, I have worked for companies that paid my travel, and I was in a very good place of privilege to have that happen. This weekend is not one of those times, and I paid my own way here because I love coming here, and I can drive here, so it didn't take as much as buying an airline ticket. But for somebody who is underrepresented especially, who perhaps already makes less money than their white counterparts, or their male counterparts, or their able-bodied counterparts, to have to come up with money to travel and do those things, it is coming from a place of underprivilege and underrepresentation. So she would say no a lot because she just couldn't afford to go and speak at all these places, and she didn't want to become the one token black woman that spoke at all of the WordCamps. And that's absolutely fine. I, on the other hand, kept getting asked if I knew any black people who might want to speak somewhere. And I know a lot of black people, but I don't know them all. And I don't know all the people that might want to speak somewhere. And I don't know that I might recommend somebody who has no idea that they want to speak somewhere. So we started our first wrong steps. And I think it's important to acknowledge that you don't always start a project the right way. So we started this project. Let's make a spreadsheet of all the people of color that we know, underrepresented people we know, that we could recommend when somebody says, do you know anybody who? So we created this Google spreadsheet between the two of us. But we quickly realized perhaps that's not the best way to go about things. Number one, as I said, I don't know all the underrepresented people. Allie didn't know, and even the two of us together couldn't possibly know all the underrepresented people in technology who might be good to speak at a conference. And then we got advised that we should not publish a directory like we talked about without the people in the directory's permission. Right, of course. She said, I think it'd be cooler if we built something like this, which is outspokenwomen.io, instead, where the users submit themselves into the database. So we started to work on that as we're talking. I said, ooh, underrepresentedintech.com is available. Now when I go back, it obviously had the website shows up. At the time, it was just like unknown. And she's like, oh my God, that would be perfect. It's only perfect as far as, do you know how long and how hard it is to type underrepresented in tech every time you want to tell somebody about your project? But I said I would buy it, and I did. So Allie says, well, I think we should still keep adding names to our spreadsheet. And instead of compiling their info, those are the people we could reach out to that we know to say, hey, if you're interested, you could join this database and help us get it up and running. And so that's what we did. So that was probably in May. You can see that this is, did I have the dates? Oh, sorry, that was August. You can see this is October now. She's like, hey, I really think we should move this forward. Is there anything we can do with that diversity database project? Do you have time to chat about it tomorrow, Friday? I'm like, yep, Friday for sure. So we continued to build this idea. We started to build the website itself. It was a project of figuring out how can somebody submit to a directory and own their data, at the same time allow somebody else to filter through it, not only for what their areas of specialty were, but what their interest is, and like maybe being a speaker on stage and their area of specialty is WordPress and SEO. Everybody in the database is underrepresented. Never once have we made it possible for you to search for a Black person or a disabled person. We vet everybody who submits into that directory. You just have to take our word for it. You have to take our word that somebody is neurodivergent or that somebody is part of the LGBTQ community, because it's not our job to label people. It's their job to say, I want to be in that database, and therefore I'm qualified, and you can be searched. Now, some people put their photos in there, and yes, it can be very easy to see if somebody's a Black person. Because you put me and a Black person side by side, they're going to know which one is the Black person. Am I right? I'm right, yeah. But that's okay too, right? Because you are somebody who wants to be reached at that point. So we sent it out to our original group of folks, stray mark at the end of that. I wrote that today, sorry about that. That doesn't mean anything. But the feedback was swift and it was kind, because the people who saw what we were doing were incredibly interested in being part of it. And the people who saw what we were doing who were not underrepresented in any way, shape, or form were incredibly interested in using it as a tool to increase the diversity of their projects, which is exactly what our goal was. So we got feedback from people, and Allie says, I just had a chance to read through the feedback. It totally warmed my heart. People were so happy and supportive. Did we get more submissions after Friday? I said the conversation on Friday was much the same. Everybody thought it was a good idea. No new submissions yet. And she says, it is, we are geniuses. I mean, we kind of felt that way. And then we launched it. We launched it, and it's one of those things. Do you ever launch something and you're like, okay, we got 20 people in. 2 days later, okay, we got 20 people in. A week later, okay, we got 20 people in. And you're like, okay, how do I grow this thing? You can't just build it, they won't come. It's not like Field of Dreams. You have to figure out a way to tell people about what you're doing. So we launched it. I started reaching out to newsletters like The Repository and WP Weekly. I started reaching out to podcasts. I reached out to the Torque Mag at the time, which Doc Popular had. I reached out to Bob Dunn. Like, we actually had conversations with people. They had us on the podcast. People started talking about it. Then people started entering themselves in the database. Then we had 75 people in the database. Then we had 200 people in the database. Today we have almost 500 people in the database. People started tweeting about it. I will forever call it tweeting. Don't tell me to call it anything else. We started tweeting about it. We presented at meetups about it, which was sometimes quite funny. So we presented at 2 meetups within the first month of actually launching. One was in Atlanta, and it was a woman who is a little older than me was running the group, and so she recognizes there's age diversity. There's not only, so it's not just about ethnicity. There's age diversity. There's all of the different things that we talked about. And there were all those different people were in that group, and so people were excited about it, and immediately like 3 or 4 more people signed up. And then Nigel Rogers from Zimbabwe reached out to me, and he's like, this is really cool. Could you talk at my meetup if we do it online? Allie couldn't be there, so I said, yeah, I would love to. So I show up at this online meetup. I am the only white person in the meetup, and I am the only woman in the meetup. I was the underrepresented person at that meetup. I was the one that was the minority in that meetup. And so Nigel saw the big picture, because Nigel works in the global marketplace, in the global ecosystem. The other men that were in that meetup kind of were looking at me like, what's this white woman doing here telling us about underrepresentation? And so I finished, I said, are there any questions? And this one gentleman says, why are you here? And I was just like, oh boy, I don't know what to say now, right? And I said, well, because I really want to support underrepresentation. And he said, we're not underrepresented. Everybody here looks like me. I said, everybody there looks like you. Do you only ever want everybody there to stay there and only work there? Because, and if that's what you want to do, that's 100% fine, and I support that. But there are people like Nigel who want to work outside of there and who want to be part of a global community. And in order for them to do that, we need to level the playing field for those people. And like, I swear to you, if I were them went, oh yeah, and like the light bulb came on and I was like, whew. Because I didn't want to be the white person coming in trying to tell everybody else how to be underrepresented or not be underrepresented. I'm just trying to present a project that can help if that's what you want to do. And so it was funny because here I am suddenly the underrepresented person trying to explain how these things work. And then other people were like, okay, we get it. And more people started to join the database. Then we presented at WordCamps about it, which was super exciting. But do you know what happens? One guess. What happens when you start to elevate underrepresented people? You get hate. You get a lot of hate. You get a lot of really, really good, and I'll tell you the good outweighs the hate every single day. But somebody tweeted, is there a place on here for Republican capitalist women in WordPress? Ha, 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 ha. And then, wait, they make money doing this? Oh my God, the hypocrisy. Using the victims for profit. They just called underrepresented people victims. And that pissed me off. I don't know if I could say that, but I said it. It really irritated me. And then the hallmark of all Democrats since Tammany Hall. First of all, we were not seeking any support from anybody. What we sought was software, because we wanted to use software without having to spend a fortune out of pocket to create this project. We have never taken support money, ever. But I will tell you that because of that, evil doesn't always win. People reached out to us and said, we want to give you money. You have spent hours and hours. How could we give you a little bit back? And so we did put, at the time, we put a tip jar on the website. I will tell you that a grand total, Allie and I made $800 total. And when we figured out to that point in the project, we made 32 cents an hour on that project. So no, were we profiting off of victims? Absolutely not. Were we creating pathways for people to find a more level place in WordPress? Yeah, because that's what started to happen. People shared out the site, they retweeted us. Companies did inquire about sponsorship, and our numbers started to grow, and people started using it. Now, we were not accepting sponsorships on the website itself, because we didn't want any company to say, look, we are diverse, we sponsor a diverse project, and yet it's all white people sitting, all able-bodied white men sitting around a table. That is not what diversity is. But we did start accepting sponsorship on our podcast, which I'll talk about in a little while. So we decided we were going to bring back the vlog. Everybody remember vlogs? So we weren't going to have a podcast. We weren't going to just do a blog. We decided we were going to vlog. We got 9 episodes done, and we were like, what are we doing? Let's turn this into a podcast. It would be so much easier. And so, but we started with this vlog idea back when I still had red hair. And gosh, I was a lot younger in that photo too. But so we started the vlog, and then, like I said, eventually we parlayed that over to a podcast. And it did not have a visual component, so we could show up looking haggard and sound really positive and not have to worry about what we look like. And we even started to bring on guests. And some of our past guests include people whose names and faces you might recognize from around the world. Dan Mabey was the director and founder of Big Orange Heart, which is about mental health and mental well-being in WordPress. Nyesha talks a lot about diversity. Josepha was the woman who was the right-hand person, who was the executive director of WordPress at the time. Leslie founded her own project and her own plugin out in where was she? Singapore, thank you, Singapore, yes. I'm like, I almost got there. And then Maestro Stevens also was doing gangbusters with his own video series at the time. And we included all those people, so it wasn't just Allie and me and our perspectives, but we could bring in perspectives of people who we found in our database because it worked to be able to use the database. And then we decided we would offer some services because Allie was freelance at the time, and she was putting a ton of time and effort into this project without having any money back from it. I worked full time. I didn't have to worry about making money off this, but I needed to make sure that Allie was making some money off this. And so we started offering some services where your company could fill out a form. We would spend time evaluating your website, and this was for hiring for diversity. Evaluate your website, evaluate your application process, and all of your social media regarding recruiting people. And we had several companies whose names we can't discuss because they didn't want that discussed out loud, and that's fine. But Ninja Forms said, we want to do better, and we want people to know that we really are working hard to do better. And so I met with the people at Ninja Forms. We turned things around for them. We told them what was wrong with their website. We told them why certain ways that you invite people to apply actually are not accomplishing what you want. One of the companies that I can't name had an application process. They came to us and said, how come more women aren't applying here? So I read the job description, which was for developers, so I'm not a developer, it wasn't gonna hit me, but women developers should still be interested. And then I got to the line above the application itself, where it said, if you think you might be a good fit for this job, apply below. Women in general, especially my generation and a few after mine, we automatically disqualify ourselves from things if you tell us that we might not be a good fit for it. So if you're using words like if, you think, you might, you've already disqualified many of us who would be perfectly fit for that job. Whereas, and I don't know the statistics, but it's been studied that a man who sees that he meets like 35 to 50% of the criteria will apply for the job. A woman who sees she makes 75 to 80% of the criteria won't, because we don't hit every single mark. And that's the difference between how men and women have been raised over time, especially in a male-dominated industry. So for us to say to them, don't say if you think you might, say you've read this far, you're still reading, apply below. And they started getting women to apply. Not like in droves, because there aren't as many women developers at the time, but women were no longer saying to themselves, I might not be a good fit for this. They read it, they saw themselves in it, they applied. And that shows you that words really, really matter. And how we use language really, really matters. And 3 little words that you wouldn't even think about made people think they weren't qualified for the job. So we were really proud of that work that we were doing, and it allowed Allie to make some money off the project as well. We also started seeking sponsorship for the podcast. I did none of the work except show up. Allie did all of the work to get it produced so that she would be able to make some money off that. Eventually, Yoast, the company, stepped up and said, we want to support your work in this. We don't even care if you put our name on it anywhere, but we want to support your work in this. They gave Allie a monthly stipend to be able to do that, which allowed us to stop having to look for fundraisers. Because if you are spending so much time looking for sponsors and fundraising, you can't actually do the work that you want to do. So when a company came forward and said, we want to sponsor Allie, I was like, yes, we can actually just do the work and not have to focus on the rest of it. So we then went even a step further. About 2 summers ago, we did a series of 6 webinars where we said what it's like being, fill in the blank. So, and if you were part of that group at all, you were not the MC for that group. So I was the host for what it's like being a Black man working in tech, because I'm not a Black man in tech. And then I was not the person who did what it's like being someone with a disability in tech, being a non-developer in tech, being LGBTQ in tech, what it's like being non-native English speaker, and 25 years or younger in tech. So we had all these people share their experiences of what it's like and what the uphill battle was for that group of people that were underrepresented. And then Allie came to me and said, I need to do something else. I've been part of this for a long time. I feel like my time with this project has come to an end. I don't want to leave you in the lurch. I'm giving you plenty of time. I'll work until the end of this year. But what just happened? What did I press? Okay, sorry guys. I don't know what I did. But Allie said, I just need to do something else. And so I said, well, I'm going to, you're okay with me taking this on and continuing the work that we've been doing because I don't feel done with it yet. She said, absolutely. And so I started to think, who else could I get to work on this project with me? It's okay if it's a woman, but it can't be a white woman. I need to have somebody who has experience as a person of color to bring that to the table as well. Because I want to make sure that between the two of us, Allie was a black woman, a queer woman, and a younger woman. I'm an older woman, a disabled woman, and a woman, right? So like we ticked a lot of the boxes together, but it couldn't be another person just like me. It needed to be somebody different. And so I reached out to Taco Verdescott at Yoast, who is a very white man, so I did not ask him to be part of it, but I said to him, I would like to ask Saman Nasser, who worked on his team, to be my partner in this, but I will only do it if Yoast will agree to let her do it during her work time so that we no longer have to do fundraising at all. So this would become part of her job, part of her 40 hours a week. He said, well, we just got bought by Newfold Digital, so let me check with the powers that be. Came back the next day and said, absolutely, we want to support this. Feel free to talk to Saman now, because I hadn't even talked to her. She could still say no at that point, but she didn't. I called her up. I said, can you hop on a call with me? She's like, I don't even hardly know you, but what do you want? And I said, get on a call with me, I want to talk to you. And so I told her, and she started to cry, and so I started to cry. She's like, oh my God, baby. I'm like, yes, you. And so she is now my partner in crime. I mean, not crime. She's my partner with Underrepresented in Tech. She is a Palestinian woman living in the Netherlands. And she has experienced everything that you might imagine somebody from Gaza experiencing. And she brings a European perspective as well, because I say, we experience this as a disabled person, or Allie could say, I experience this as a black woman. And people outside of the United States say, well, that doesn't happen here. It does. It does happen there. But the people who are telling us that it doesn't happen there are white people who happen to live in those places. And yes, there is discrimination all over the world. And yes, there is inaccessibility all over the world. The most recent episode, I challenge you, go listen to the most recent episode that we put out on Underrepresented in Tech 3 weeks ago as I was coming back from Europe with my scooter. It took me an extra 24 hours to get home because I got deboarded from one plane. I got told by a pilot they wouldn't allow my battery, my scooter battery is on. It took me so long to get home. I've never cried as much on an airplane and in an airport. It took me 24 extra hours. I just wanted to go home. And I finally got home. But to hear about what it was like as a disabled person, traveling as a disabled person almost broke me. It's like, how can I ever think about, okay, I'll tell you, I will never fly through Paris again. Like, it was the worst, right? I'm hoping that my trip to Amsterdam this year is a lot better. But it was one of those things where just as a disabled person traveling by themselves, I should be able to navigate the world. And I couldn't because I was literally stopped without batteries, without a wheelchair, dumped in a spot where I had nowhere to go. That's not okay. But between us, we have a lot of those experiences. I can talk what it's like to travel and what it's like to be a disabled person in other parts of the world. She can talk about what it's like to be a minority person in Europe and in her travels. And so the two of us have now been podcasting for over a year together in Underrepresented in Tech. What we're up to now is super cool because we don't need sponsors anymore at all. So Yoast sponsors her time directly, but we don't look for sponsorship anywhere. We don't have donations on the website. We don't have anything on the website. We are not looking for money or anything from anybody other than to share our resource so that other people can be found. If you think that you like what you see, tell people about it, because our database grows regularly because people want to be found. I think you'll see on the homepage of the website too, that people from podcasting, people from different places, people have found jobs because somebody searched through the database looking for a qualified person and to increase the diversity where they work. And they wanted qualified people, so they looked there. People have been on podcasts. People have been on stages because they have been found through that database. We did re-add the video component. So it is still a podcast, but we also live on YouTube. So that if people want to see facial expressions, they can do that. We have transcripts of all of our episodes so that if you are somebody who has auditory processing issues or can't hear at all, you can read a transcript of every episode. We make sure there's alt text because we know that it's not just people who look different, but there are people who have accessibility issues on the web, and we want to make sure that those issues are met as well. We have a monthly newsletter that we haven't sent out in 8 months, so we're really bad at that, but we're trying to get better at it. We want to start sending out the newsletter with episodes and reminding people who are in it. And we're still thinking about the future and what the future of Underrepresented in Tech, the project, might look like. Because underrepresented people still need allies. One of my greatest joys in life is being an ally and watching somebody else take a space that they couldn't have held before, even if it means I step back so they can have my spot, because I want other people to be able to be part of the community. I want their voices heard. It's true that underrepresented people as a whole make less money than their white counterparts do, and that their able-bodied counterparts do. In the United States alone, we have something called Equal Pay Day. And women in the United States, by and large, have to work into March of the next year to make as much as a man in the same position did the year before. So in order for our salaries to match a man's 1 year, we have to work 15 months. That breaks down so much further when you add ethnicity into it, when you add Black women into it, when you add Indigenous peoples. As a matter of fact, Indigenous peoples are the worst. An Indigenous woman, a Native American woman in the United States has to work almost 2 full years to make the salary of a man in the year prior. So our work is not done, is what I'm trying to say. We still make less money than most men do. We still get hate. I got deplaned on the way back because the pilot refused to take my batteries. I was already seated. I was already drinking my champagne. I thought, I did it, I made it, I'm going home. And I got deplaned, and it felt like the walk of shame. It felt like people are looking at me thinking, was she a terrorist? What's wrong with that woman? Why did they take her off the plane? She wasn't crying, she wasn't pulling hair, she wasn't doing all the things we see on TikTok and all those places. Just because I need a mobility device to get around, I couldn't get home on that flight. That's not fair. We still get hate from people. We still face oppression. There are so many places in the world I cannot get access to. I was in San Antonio, and almost every building that's a public building did not have a paddle to access. Do you know how hard it is in a scooter to hold a door, back up, move it open, and pull through to get in? I have been injured. I have bruises from doing that. Hotel rooms are terrible. There's so much of the world that is accessible is really not as accessible as it should be. We still face unemployment. Underrepresented people matter. Our voices matter, our contributions matter. What we do, what we know matters. We contribute. Underrepresented people are amazing. Our hopes is that we level the playing field. That's always been our hope, is help level the playing field in any way and shape that we can. And by raising awareness, by talking through the things we talk about, by not holding any punches in our podcast, we keep it real. We swear sometimes. We talk about the things. We don't call out people, but we call out problems. And we really do talk about what it takes and what we're experiencing and what we're seeing in the news. And even if it doesn't apply to either of us, we talk about it. We talk about what we're seeing, what people are experiencing, and why it's important that allies especially continue to talk about this. We want to see more room at the table. I always say, do you know the table's fictitious, right? Like, it isn't just a physical table. That table can be as big as we want to make it. We can always add, you don't have to pull more chairs and like squeeze in like it was Thanksgiving dinner and you were growing up and you just wanted to sit at the grown-up table this time. No, this table is as big as we want to make it, so make the table bigger. We want to see more opportunities. We want representation. We want people from every underrepresented group to be represented. We want equity, inclusion, diversity, and belonging, which is what that DEIB that you hear about a lot, that's what it stands for. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We want to see that happen. So what can you do? How can you be an ally? Well, are you hiring? Check the database. Encourage underrepresented people to apply. Take a look at your application. Does it say things like, if you think you might be a good fit? Fix that. And if you want a pair of eyes on it, ask me. I'm always happy to take a look. Are you hosting an event and you want to make sure that you have diversity in your lineup? Check the database and encourage underrepresented people to apply to speak, or volunteer, or organize. Look at your website. Do they encourage or discourage customers from buying, applicants, engagement? I will tell you, I cry very easily. Unfortunately, that's just how my makeup is, because every year, Etsy comes out with a new set of holiday commercials that just have me crying such happy tears, right? Like, they have one for LGBTQ where, like, the new couple and the two guys are going home and he's going to meet his father and he's like, I'm going to cry. They are so welcoming, so inviting. The little girl whose teacher can't pronounce her name and her mom helps, like, oh. Yeah. Are you encouraging? Are you following those kinds of things? Even if it means like you might be stepping out of your comfort zone. Can you do that? Can you help even the playing field? Have conversations. Have conversations. Have tough conversations. Have tough conversations with people you're comfortable with. And turn around and have conversations with people that you might not be comfortable with, but in a positive way. Ask people how they experience the world and how you can make it better for them. And what makes the most is amplify voices. I don't have to speak for Black people. I don't have to speak for the LGBTQ community. I don't have to speak for underrepresented groups I'm not part of. If I know people who I can retweet, repost, give a spot, have on my podcast, I should not be the voice for people. A good ally makes space for those people to have their own voices and then amplifies them for other people to hear. And then sponsor where you can, engage and hire people. I do something at flagship WordCamps that I call the selfie challenge. And it looks like the most hedonistic thing you'd ever see, because I ask people, take a picture with me, post it on social media with the hashtag Michelle and me. And what does that accomplish at all, you're asking? Companies and individuals give me money to do that. They sponsor that. And in the last 3 years, I've given away almost $15,000 to underrepresented. Why am I crying today? Sorry. It's exciting to see people be able to speak and organize events that couldn't if they didn't have the money. And the first person that ever reached out to me was a young man in Uganda who needed $100 to speak at his first word camp. And I was able to do that because people give me money for taking my picture. Goodness gracious, sorry guys. But you can do things like that. It's silly, it's fun, it accomplishes me having pictures I wouldn't normally have. And it allows people to feel like they can come talk to me if they're nervous or if they are introverted, because I've asked people to come do this and help me raise money. And it's been really, really good. Sorry, I didn't mean to cry. But that's what we are. That's what we do. I'm a crier from way back. Whew. I need a drink. But that's what underrepresented in tech is about. It's about making it a fair place for the world. Life is not fair. When somebody says it's not fair, this isn't fair, that isn't fair, it isn't about fair, but it should be about equity. Fairness is something that is in our minds about what we think the world should be. Equity is more about people having what they need to accomplish the same goals. And so if we can do that as a people, we've accomplished a whole lot more than we could have in the past. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting up with my tears. And I don't know what time it is, but I would happy to answer some questions if you have any. Yes.
Do you feel threatened in this current climate because diversity seems like to be a bad word? Like DI seems to be like, can't have this, schools, a lot of places
Yeah.
are failing to eat, and you have an organization that focuses on that. I mean, have you noticed people not wanting to work as much because they're afraid, or?
I haven't seen that as much. What I do know is that a lot of people say to me they're afraid to do things within our current political climate here in the United States because of the de-escalation of DEIB initiatives within the United States. And that breaks my heart, right? Do I feel personally threatened by it? Not exactly, but every time I go overseas, I worry about being able to come back into the United States with the work that I do. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm wondering at some point if they're going to look at my social media and say, we need to have a talk. And maybe it could happen, maybe it'll never happen, I don't know. But I am more aware of those kinds of things now than I ever have been before. I haven't had people tell me that they're afraid, specifically people who live here, but people who are outside of the United States are afraid to come here right now and do things because of what they perceive through the news as what's happening. And I don't know what to believe half the time, but I'm more likely to believe that it's worse than we actually think. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah. Any other questions? Yes, I told you I cry easily. You know that commercial for Folgers or Maxwell House that's like 20 years old, and like Peter comes home early for Christmas, and like the parents wake up and they smell the coffee, and they come downstairs and they're like, Peter, he's home. I'm like, he is, Peter came home. So yeah, so like if you know me, you know I cry easily. Thank you for putting up with my tears. I will be around to the end of the day. I'm going to be at the after party for like an hour. If you have questions that you don't want to ask in front of a room full of people, please come talk to me one-on-one. I'm happy to have those conversations. Reach out to me afterwards. You can always reach me through the website as well. But thank you so much for being here. Yes?
What's the next steps going forward with this? Is there more future plans?
Right now, our plans are to continue to do what we're doing, add the newsletter back in so that we can kind of keep it in people's inboxes, and invite more people to be guests on the show. So thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.